Okay, I think it's just about 11 o'clock, so we're going to get started. Good morning, everyone. Just to let you know, you won't be seeing me on the video today, as I'm going to keep it pointed down because we're going to be starting our stitching today. There was a couple of things I wanted to mention before we get started. The first one, yesterday, after I finished filming, of course, I thought of all these things I should have mentioned and gone over. The main one being, I remember back when I first started doing wool applique, one of the confusing things for me was taking a design, putting it on the freezer paper, and then getting that all cut out. So I felt terrible for not having covered that a bit more, because I remember it was a challenge for me, and maybe it is for some of you, maybe it isn't, but I found it confusing to look at a template and try to figure out how to get that design transferred to the freezer paper and then brought back to life onto the wool. And of course, I'm going to show you how to bring it back to life onto the wool, but I wanted to go over a little bit more thoroughly how to put it onto the freezer paper and then onto your wool and then cut it out. We'll do that in just a minute, but I also wanted to mention I had quite a few people ask about kits for the projects I'm going to be doing. I would love to do kits, but I can't do it. I just don't have the time. If I got into producing kits for the projects that I'm making, I wouldn't have time to do the videos. It's just me. I am a tiny little operation. I have my studio and it's small, and I work from home, and I work 10 hours or so a day just keeping up now, and I don't want it to be any busier or any more demanding, I guess, than it is. I love the pace that I work at now, and of course I welcome new customers, new followers, and people excited about the project that I'm doing, and all the projects that I will be doing, but I won't be able to do kits. At least I don't foresee it at this time. But what I will tell you is I am going to be using Blackberry Primitives wool for all of these projects. And because I tend to work with the same color palette, I mean, obviously with the seasons and different designs, there'll be one or two, or there might be one or two different colors here and there to add in. But for the most part, if you order yourself a fat quarter or a half of yard of the wool for these initial projects, you will have a good supply and pretty much will be sticking with these colors. The next project that we're working on, I will be using from this pile of colors that we are using this time. We'll be using the red, the army green, the pear. It's the same background. I should have brought it over so I could show it to all of you. But what I'm trying to say is, if you order at least a fat quarter of these wool colors, you won't need the kits, because you'll have enough wool in your own supply to pull from and put your own kits together. So you should be okay. Good morning, everyone that's coming in. I see people are coming in. So hopefully that makes sense to you and you understand why I would like to really concentrate on these videos and really put my all into it and, you know, make it delightful. So I don't want to cause myself to be harried trying to keep up with the ensuing extra stuff that comes along with it. So I think that's a very good way to go about it, and perhaps in the future we could see about kits somewhere along the line. All right, so let's get started. As I mentioned, I wanted to go over the transferring of the design onto the freezer paper. So I left mine, let me zoom in a little bit better. I left mine uncut from the wool so that you could see, and how you can also see, now that I've gone down, I need to lift it up a little bit more, how it's a very small amount of wool that we actually use for this project. And I retraced, please excuse my sloppy lines, retracing with marker on soft wool isn't an easy task to accomplish. So they're a little bit messy, but I'll manage it. And as you can see, I wanted to show you how I mentioned yesterday, how I like to group my colors together so that I can then place them on each individual wool color. I tend to leave space around them. So when I take my template, and of course when you do wool applique, you need to look at a design and break it up into pieces. So this shawl section here is a piece. This piece here, this section of this draped part of her shawl will be its own individual piece. Everything is broken up into different pieces. So you wouldn't be able to just go along and trace out her skirt and shawl and have that all be on your template as one piece. I hope that makes sense. So what I like to do is when I trace onto my freezer paper, now when you use freezer paper, you're going to place the shiny, you probably can't tell in the video. Oh, that's the phone, please excuse that. There's a shiny side and a dull side. So you will place the shiny side down on your template and then trace your pieces. Let me slide this out of the way so that and what I tend to do is I group things that will be the same color together on my freezer paper. So I would put her head up here. I leave a little space. And of course, again, I'm doing it with pencil, so it probably would be better for you to see if I did marker, but I'm just not very good at that. I have to use a pencil. So here is my head, and the head is going to be done in terracotta, as we mentioned yesterday, so that there's the head. The stem is a different color, so I'm not going to trace the stem. Now the neck is also terracotta. I try not to be very wasteful with my supplies, but sometimes to make life easier, it does happen. Now remember we talked about yesterday as well, I'm making, whoops, that's too close, hold on. I'm making these arms longer. Because they gave me trouble being too short. I also mentioned yesterday to label, it's best to label your pieces so that when you cut things out, the way I do it, I kind of don't lose track because I keep things grouped together. And you'll see as I cut them out, the way I cut them out and place them on the wool, it's easier for me to keep track, but I will eventually cut them out into individual small pieces, so I still label them just in case they give me trouble. But as you can see, I've got them labeled here. But anyways, okay, so there's my head, my arms, my neck. Those are all going to be the same color. So I will then cut this piece of freezer paper. For some reason, I'm having some sort of mental block on the name of this. I will cut that out right there, set it aside, and when I put it on the wool, I'll put this whole piece, I'll iron this whole piece onto the wool. Let me find those scissors and just go over and show you what I'm talking about. I try not to be too wasteful with things. I mean, I tend to be a little bit wasteful with the freezer paper, but you know, I don't go overboard. But I don't cut on my pencil lines yet, I guess is what I'm trying to say in a very odd way. So here I have my 3 template pieces that are going to be the same color. I would then take this whole thing, iron it onto my piece of wool. And again, like I said yesterday, when you iron it, don't use steam and just heat up your iron so it's quite warm, and then just press and lift, press and lift. And there you have one bit of color and one group of templates. All right, hopefully that makes sense to you, and I've explained it well enough so you understand what the heck I'm talking about. I was finally able to print out the supply list. Remember, I was having trouble with that yesterday. Okay, so now we shall get started cutting. Make sure I keep everything in your view. Now we can get started cutting the templates from the wool. You will see me use various scissors doing this. I get as close as I can with, I don't know, I can't even really explain why it happens. I don't want to cut the paper with my good scissors. So I'll cut out what I can with the good scissors, then I have to go back in and trim with my paper scissors. So I generally will cut something out like this. And tiny pieces are going to get lost. I can't tell you how many times I lose pieces and then I'll have to recut. And of course they show up, the tiny pieces end up showing up afterwards. So then I'll go back in and cut out with my paper scissors. And I have 2 paper scissors, 2 scissors specifically for paper, because this one is getting kind of dull, so I can't really do a great job with this. So I'll have to go in and get the tiny details with my smaller ones. I really need to order a new pair of scissors for wool applique, a couple new pairs. Because I don't love these ones. Hopefully I'm keeping that where you guys can see it. Just make sure when you cut out to this point, you get all your details in there. Generally, I cut right on the line. At this point, something like this pumpkin head, I know the shape it's going to be, so I don't really have to get too carried away, because the pumpkin area is on its own. So you don't have to get too worried about keeping the exact, shape. If you miss a bump, it's okay, because it's not butting up against anything except in this neck area. And so you don't have to worry about that. You can make it work. Here we have the arm pieces. Hopefully I don't lose them. I tried to have background music on for this video today. I had some lovely instrumental music. But, oh, and when you cut your pieces out, you of course leave your freezer paper. My gosh, what's wrong with me in that word today? Freezer paper on there for now. We won't take the freezer paper off, at least I don't, until I'm ready to put everything, see everything together. Anyways, I wanted to have the background music on, but when I had the music running, it caused the internet to act up. So I didn't want it to affect my live video, so I made sure to shut that back off. All right, put my scraps in here. By the way, I wanted to show you guys this lovely little scrap pouch my dear friend Deb gave to me. She was here for a workshop over the weekend, and she gave it to me, and I absolutely love it. She made it. All right, the neck. Perhaps you guys can hear the birds serenading you in the background. The woodpeckers are coming to the feeder. They're quite vocal. All right, and the terracotta colors are now done. I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna try to be a little bit quicker so I don't bore you with all my cutting. In this section, this is one of those small elements that is going to be difficult to stitch. Try not to allow yourself to get too frustrated, but the smaller elements can be challenging to stitch. I'm not going to cut out that tiny little bump that you see, if you can see it. I had like a little curve on the template. You'll notice on the top of the stem, I got a little decorative and added a little flourish there at the top of the stem. I'm not even going to bother to cut that out with the template because it just won't work when we go to stitch it down. Maybe I'll add it in there in another way, French knot or something, fancy it up with a stitch. Okay. And I'm sure you probably are noticing, I tend to go just outside my lines. Sometimes I'm on them, sometimes I'm outside. I don't know, that's just a habit I can't seem to break. All right, there's all the army green pieces. I'm just gonna toss these over here. Now we have our little turkey. How cute is he? Or she? I'd say she. She has, you know, the look of a female turkey, although she's going to have, it is going to have a wattle and crop. And I can't remember at the moment if female turkeys have those, so perhaps it is a male. Leave your beak a little bit wide. If you cut it too thin, you'll be pulling your hair out by the time we get it finished. So I'd have to switch my scissors here. Hopefully no one is messaging me and I'm missing it. Because I have this pointed down at my work area today, I'm not able to see the comments. I can peek up over the camera every now and again, but I'm not so good at remembering that. Okay. You don't want to rush too much because you want to keep your shape. I'm trying to hurry just a little bit so that cutting these out isn't going to take days. All right, hold on. Let me get rid of some of this excess so this isn't quite so hard to manage. And as you'll see, sometimes when you cut in, I don't know what I'm hearing, but I keep hearing a dinging. I don't know what it is. Sounds like someone's messaging me, but I don't know. Hopefully it's not you guys. So anyway, sometimes you can cut in. Whew, I see the wool dust floating everywhere. My eyes are going to be itchy mess here in a little while. I can't do it with those tiny ones. I'm going to have to make it work with these sort of dull ones. When you go to cut out your turkey feathers, don't kill yourself trying to make it be exactly like the template. As long as you have some, curves and scallopy areas in your edges, it will look nice. So don't stress yourself if you're not able to have it look exactly as it does on the template. Okay, those are the two light sand dollar pieces. Now here's the darker tail feather. Oh, there's Oliver James getting in on the video. What's up, buddy? What's the matter? There is a tractor or maybe a four-wheeler. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see. But in the field across the road, I hear something, and that must be what he's hearing. Trying to be careful with this piece because this is the one that gave me a little bit of trouble lining up when I went to put everything together. So we will see. I was at first worried that I hadn't ironed out all the little details and made one fully ahead of time because I wanted to be able to address any issues that might have occurred. Then I realized that it might be actually a little bit more beneficial to you if I see a problem as we're going along and I figure it out, hopefully, as we're working, because that might be helpful to you. Hopefully I can figure it out. I was quite wasteful with this lovely red. I should have done that, but with these small pieces, I feel like if I give myself a little bit bigger piece of wool to work with, it's not so stressful, because the small pieces can be, like I have said 1,000 times at this point probably, they can be challenging. Do the best you can. If you have to, just make them a little bit bigger. As you can see, I fumbled that one up big time. I am going to have to use my ones I previously cut out. And as you can see, I did end up making them bigger than originally on the template. So if you haven't already done so, if you haven't already traced your template onto your freezer paper, and if you haven't already traced it onto your freezer paper, feel free to make them a little bit larger than I have on the template, because that will make your life a lot more pleasant. I'm just going to toss this because I'm not going to use these smaller pieces. So we've got our larger wattle and crop, and I'll just use those. I've taken the freezer paper off them obviously already, so I'm going to put a pin in those so that I don't lose them, hopefully. All right, we're almost set cutting out, we're almost finished cutting out all of our template pieces. We have the skirt. Yes, I can use my big scissors for this because I'm not cutting into the paper. Can't get quite as close as I'd like, so I'm gonna I find that if you get really close, whoops, sorry, I wasn't on camera. If you get really close to your edges, like I'm doing right now, it tends to start to pull your freezer paper away off your wool, and I didn't want to do that yet, so. All right, let me move these for just a minute. I want to give my background wool a good shaking. All right, I cut this out last night too. I didn't tell you guys to go ahead and do that, but you'll want to cut your background piece of wool to 14 long, 12 wide. Our finished piece is going to be approximately 10 by 12. So, you know, just cut it a little bit bigger. That way, as you're working, if things start to fray, the edges start to fray, you'll have some leeway to cut it down a little bit. And I don't even know yet how we're going to finish this. I haven't decided. If I'm just going to simply put a loop at the top and run a dowel through here to hang it and leave the edges loose, or if I'll think of a trim, or if maybe I'll, hopefully I'm on camera, fold over all my edges and trim them down. Maybe I'll take another slightly smaller piece of wool. This is probably what I'll do. I'll probably take another smaller, just slightly smaller than this size piece of wool, and then I'll fold the outer edges over that and stitch that down, if it won't make it too bulky. I don't know yet how we're going to finish it. I might leave that all totally up to you. I might take your suggestions, which of course I always take anyone's suggestions. So if you guys have suggestions on how you might like to see this finished, please feel free to let me know. When we get to that point, we'll decide together what we will do. For now, we're just going to get started. All right, so you'll want to have your template nearby to do this so you can check your pieces, but she's going to be in the center. What I do is I lay everything out first. I like to try to make sure. Did anyone notice she doesn't have any feet? I'm not so good with the feet. I left them off. Someday you'll see feet on my wool applique, but for right now, her skirt is long enough where it covers her feet. All right, let's see. So I just sort of like to lay it out, and then, I'll have to move it up or down. Let me go up a smidge. Make sure I'm keeping everything in view for everyone. Okay. I can zoom back in afterwards. I should have brought my ruler out, but let me do it this way so I know exactly where the middle is. I don't want it to be lopsided, so just stick. Hopefully you guys can see that. Now I can't see what you guys see, so I got to bring this down. All right, so I just stick a pin in here, and then when I open it back up, I'll know where my middle is, if that makes sense. I'm going to decide which side I like. I think this. All right, so there is my approximate center. So, if I had to guess that on my own, I wouldn't have guessed that's where the center was. It looks a little off to me, but all right, so we will put don't lose it, don't lose it. Her neck. And I'm going to leave that pin right there for right now. We've got her neck. Let's see how this neck goes. I'll refer to the template. This is why I lose pieces, because at certain points, everything is everywhere. All right, so the neck goes like that. Tail, tail, turkey. I thought I lost a piece already. Shawl, shawl. And I'll lay this out better in just a second. I just want to gauge my center. And I can see right now, you guys probably can't because I didn't have it up high enough. Let me lift myself so you guys can see. I can see right now that it's off because it's too far down toward the bottom. So I'm going to move it up a little. or a lot. And I would say the skirt is going to be right in the center. Gosh, it seems like it's up awfully high, but so from the looks of things, the center of your wool is going to be, the skirt is going to be starting just slightly above the center. Okay? Going to go down a bit. Bring this in so you can see this. All right. So I will peel off the freezer paper. Do this slowly. You don't want to make your wool all fuzzy. And especially with your small pieces, this is important. This is especially important with your small pieces. Trying my best not to sound ridiculous when I say things. Excuse me. As you can see, some of our edges are a little bit rough. Don't worry about that. All right, I feel safe in taking out my center pin now. If I can get it out. I'm going to check my sides. I can be a little anal about this, but I don't like things when they're off center for some reason. And then I'm just simply going to poke a couple of pins into her skirt. Okay? Move these over here. All right. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. All right, now we have her shawl piece. So that is going to lay, as I mentioned earlier, yesterday, I think that I want to lay, and it's important to refer to the template. Well, it is. I was going to say if you wanted to have it look just like mine, but I'm going to, for the sake of convenience, pretend like you want it exactly like the template, or assume that you want it exactly like the template. So you want to refer to your template to make sure that you are going to lay your piece out as it is on the template. So just make note of where everything lies. I believe, like I make note of this one meets the skirt right here. And this side is past her waist. So it, that's how I line it up. Gosh, I hope I'm explaining this well enough to you guys. Whew. This really stuck this time. Sometimes I feel like this freezer paper barely sticks, and other times, like right now, it's like I used a piece of glue on there. Gosh, it's making me nervous. It's gonna fray up my end. I don't know what that's all about. Must have been extra glue on that particular piece. Frayed it a smidge. I'm just gonna cut that off. Now I'll check it again. And I'm going to overlap this because that's what I plan to do. Gosh, that noise that's coming from the other room is really baffling me. All right, so then I'll poke a couple of pins down here. I wasn't putting that tail feather up high enough before. I had trouble with this area. As I mentioned yesterday, I had trouble with this area when I did my partial sample. And I think maybe I just didn't have it up completely. So that's where it is right now. All right, next section of our shawl. My heavens. This is a sticky piece of freezer paper. I have never had one of these pieces of freezer paper adhere quite so much. Look at it. It's taking half my wool. Oh my word. I'm getting nervous about what it's going to mean for those small pieces when we try to pull them apart. I'm just getting rid of a little bit of the frayness. Okay, check it again. I always try to lay them out wrong. I might need my neck in place for this, but... And I think... Oh, I don't know. I might tuck that under when we stitch those down. Generally, I like to just butt things up against each other because it looks nice. But I feel like to give this piece a little bit of movement, I don't want it quite so flat, I guess. Okay, let's peel our neck apart and see what happens. Oh, goodness. Just when you pull it apart, just pull evenly on both pieces if you have this same trouble. And it tends to help. Okay. The neck is right there. All right. And her head is at an angle. Oh, she's adorable. And this guy obviously is going to need to be up higher. Let us attempt a tiny piece. Oh my word. See, now that came right off. That was odd. Ooh. Probably should have put a mat down underneath here because I'm poking into my table and that's not really all that bright of me, but hopefully I'm not digging down into there. This makes me think of that game when I was young, or it makes me think of maybe like butterfly specimens or what have you, but for some reason it makes me think of, remember that game, what was it called? Operation. For some reason, when I'm doing this, it makes me think of the Operation game. All right, now for the arms. Let's see if I've made them long enough. And let's see if I can pull them apart without tearing my wool into shreddy bits. Oh, come on, come on. All right, sometimes you can reuse your templates, and you know, if you wanted to make a second piece, you could reuse the same templates. I've never done that. I don't bother. I feel like, right, I feel like it would just be a hassle I didn't want to deal with. So the arm is going to butt up against that part of the shawl, then go over this part of the shawl. And then we'll put stitches here to make it look like she has her hands in her pockets. So far, so good. Does anyone else notice as you get older, your hands don't work as well as they used to? I used to be able to pull things apart and not have trouble with it. And now I struggle with it. Picking up paper off something or, all right, let me concentrate here for a minute. Goes right over the edge. I feel like I don't have this shawl exactly where it's supposed to be. Oh, all right. Well, that looks good to me. You're going to think I'm crazy because we're laying all this out and then we're going to pull it back up. But you want to make sure you have everything as it should be before you start your stitching. And this is really the only way. Plus, you like to, at least I do, I like to lay it all out and get a good look at it and see it before I start to stitch. It encourages me to keep going. All right, be careful with this neck here. It's a thin one. All right, it looks like this far up. Oh, she's discouraged. No. All right, that looks about right to me. I like this wool. What's the name of it again? Sand dollar. It has some texture to it. You might not be able to see that, but I wouldn't stick your pins in the neck, because when you go to take it out, just the less you do with that thin neck or any thin pieces, the less you fiddle with them, the better. All right, let's stick this crop and wattle on there. Right. There, now it looks like a turkey. Okay, a couple of more pieces. That's that. Nope, okay. I don't know if you can see, I'm just making sure that I have it going in the right direction. Apparently it goes right, oh yeah. I I know that seems a little crazy, but that piece, I gave me quite a bit of hassle last time. So I'm pleased that it fit where it was supposed to fit. And then we have, oh, that's got to face up a bit. What? Ooh, I didn't get this angle in there very well. All right, let's see. I'm just going to, for some reason I missed this corner right here when I was cutting. So I just, there we go. That's there. And this is, oh shoot. This is another piece to give this piece a, you know, a movement and a little bit more realistic look. I'm going to overlap those two pieces because on a turkey, if you were looking at a turkey, this would be the back. You know, their feathers, their wings and their tail feathers and whatnot are, you know, not just all out of one place. This larger one would be in the front and this smaller one would be the back. All right, we have our project completely laid out. So we are going to, our next move is stitching. Oh gosh. All right, let's see. Let me see what time it is. I'm sure we must have time still to do this. I can't see the clock. Oh my gosh, it's been almost an hour. All right. I don't know if I should end it here or if I make these videos too long, I'll never get it uploaded to YouTube. So I feel like maybe we should stop here. I hate to, but I was hoping to start stitching today, but I don't think we're going to have time. So I think I should probably end it here. We've got it all laid out. Hopefully I explained everything to you okay. And you're having an easy time getting to this point. As I said before, if you have any questions, if there's something I didn't cover that you would like to know, please feel free to reach out. You can leave a comment underneath the live video in the Facebook group, or if you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave a comment there on the YouTube channel underneath the video and I will answer it there, or you can send me a message, email. You can always find my email on my website. We'll meet back here tomorrow at 11 a.m. and we will start stitching. I will leave her just like this so we can pick up right here where we left off today. And tomorrow when we get started, we'll start with her head and go from there. Hopefully you guys didn't have any trouble getting all of your supplies and ordering everything. I haven't decided yet what color I'm going to stitch her head with, but I think the black. Yes, I believe the black. And get my needle and my thread ready. So we are all set for tomorrow. Oh, you're very welcome, Reed. Thank you for tuning in. All right. That is it for today, my friends. We will see you all tomorrow at 11 a.m. Have the best day.